Welcome to Breaking the Vow on Strong Island Radio. This is a show where we turn pain into power and find recovery after divorce, separation, and breakups. This is where we push the emotional hang-ups to the side and create a plan to reach our best possible potential. This is where the next chapter starts and how the healing begins. So let's welcome your hosts, Theresa D. and Benny, the life coach.
Welcome to episode 2 of Breaking the Vow, turning pain into power. Take it away, Ben.
So I am Benny, the life coach, with my co-host, Theresa D. Today, we have a guest with us. And last show, if you remember, we said, hey, listen, we're not professionals, nor are we trying to be one. We're actually two people that went through a situation, although different, similarly, because we both got divorced and we both had to try to find a sense of recovery. So what we want to do is to make this show as real as possible. We do bring on professionals, and we brought a professional today.
We did. We brought a very good professional.
A for real one.
A for real one.
Like with degrees on the wall.
Yes.
And shit. So would you do the honors, please, Jen? Please introduce yourself.
I'm Jennifer Goody. I'm an attorney, and I want to thank you both for having me here today. And I practice in the area of divorce law almost exclusively.
So,
Wait. Let me tell you a little bit about Jen.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, not only does she have the most beautiful cat named Luna, just have to say that and put it out there, she is, to me, a master at her craft and doing what she does. She knows exactly how to take emotion out of the divorce situation and make you think about what it is, the process is, and what goal you need to get to.
So wait, you're telling me rather than think so Jennifer, you would say rather than be emotional, let's talk about strategy and plans, goals, and have like an actual, rather than be irrational, let's be rational about that. Is that how you want to go about this?
Exactly. And
Yes.
a lot of people, I do have clients, and I'm sure other attorneys do, who run by their emotions, and they will run their case by the emotions, and that leads to excessive legal fees.
Yeah.
And you can tell clients that, and they will still do that. And if they have the money, they're welcome to do it, but not everybody, and most people don't, nor do they want to spend the money running on their emotions. So it's important to point that out to people so that they take some emotion out of it.
I have a really interesting question, and before we came to the studio this morning. Theresa actually said it too. With COVID going on, has there been a spike in divorces, and has business been crazy?
I think it depends on which attorneys you ask. My business has been about the same.
Okay.
Other attorneys have been busier, some have been quieter. It really depends. I think initially the cases that were ongoing were quiet for a month or two, and then with everybody living together, sort of status quo, some of the cases in terms of custody started having some issues. And then people who were looking to get divorced maybe then started saying, listen, I can't take this anymore,
Right.
and started filing. And there was difficulty initially in filing for divorce when COVID first started because the courts were shut down to new filings.
Right.
100%.
So,
Right.
so people that wanted to file really couldn't for about two or 3 months.
At that point, I think they were only seeing like cases that were criminal cases, and even then.
So initially when COVID started, the courts were open for emergency applications
Yes.
across the board. So you had criminal, you had family court, and there were Supreme Court cases being heard for emergencies, whether it was a custody case, whether it was an order of protection.
Right.
But the judges were cognizant that it really had to be an emergency. So it was
Right.
very difficult
To get in.
to say what was an emergency because there wasn't anywhere, like if a judge said you can't go back home on an order of protection, where was that person going with
Right.
everything shut down? So
Right.
it really had to be an emergency.
You're right. So it's not like you could stop life. Even
Right.
though COVID stopped everything, life still happens.
Right.
Correct.
And again, going back to the whole emotional, strategic way of thinking, I had an empowerment program that I did every Sunday morning called Breakfast with Benny in North New Jersey jail. And once COVID hit, they're like, they actually stopped it. They stopped the service, and it was the DRC, so the Drug Rehabilitation Center in the jail. And I would go every Sunday morning. These guys hated me because they woke them up a half hour earlier just so I could come in. So I have to come in, and I'm like, bam! I go through the door, and I'm blazing, and I'm trying to keep them excited. And they're like, so there were people that definitely appreciated it. I made some great connections and some good friends there. And the great thing about that is that
That's good, Benny. You have connections at the jail.
Well, you know what was great about this for me? I treated them like human beings.
Right.
Now, and I bring this up for a reason. Sometimes when you going through divorce, there's almost this idea like, well, I'm a client, or that's my attorney, and there's almost this like this dehumanizing process. It can be. And is that how do you help someone feel comfortable and have that idea like I almost as if I'm your only client, you value me that much, and I feel that important?
Client communication and getting back to your client right away when they reach out to you. So a lot of times clients will have my direct cell phone number. They can text me or call me directly, getting back to them, within a brief amount of time, especially if there's an emergency. So making sure that they have that access. It's also a process of screening that client when they first come in, because there are people who abuse that because they'll contact you for any willy-nilly reason whatsoever, and it doesn't allow you to get along with your day. So you kind of have to gauge the person when you first meet them. So does the person get your cell phone number because you really think there's an emergency? And where was the referral source? So you think that it's safe to do that?
Sure.
Or is it somebody who really should just have the office number and an email address so
Right.
that
Yeah.
they should contact you that way? So you
absolutely.
really have to pay attention
Yes.
to that.
I used to get calls in the middle of the night.
You still do.
Not as bad. And this was when I was doing recovery service for a county, and I had a list of clients that I had to follow after their overdose, and sometimes they'd fall off the wagon, and so I got remarried, so I have a new life, and I always refer to it as my new life, but there are times where the phone rings. And then, she knows like sleep jujitsu. So like, boom, I get kicked out of bed, and I'm on the phone. I'm trying to I'm trying to remember the voice. I'm trying to connect it, and they're like barely even speaking into the phone. So I would assume, giving your cell phone out, especially in your position, when someone's going through something extremely emotional, has got to be a little difficult, no?
So it is, and again...
Are you allowed to talk about any of the crazier times?
I can, but I would say this, like, I'm not a great sleeper, and I have been known to text people or email them at 3 o'clock in the morning if I happen to be up.
You fit in this group perfectly.
And there are times that I've answered emails at 3 in the morning, and a client will respond, and we'll go back and forth, and then I'll say, why don't we just talk on the telephone? So I have spoken to clients at 3 o'clock in the morning. That hasn't happened probably in the last 5 years, but back in my younger years when I was up at those kinds of hours, I would do that.
That's awesome.
For the most part, I'm not getting phone calls at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I have had people come to me where they're concerned about an abusive spouse. They're concerned that the police have already been called or that the police will be called. And it's a concern for them. And realistically, what I tell them is if you have an emergency situation, I am not your first phone call. It's like having a car
911.
accident. Right. It's like having a car accident and calling your personal injury attorney first. That's not who you call first. Calling your insurance carrier is not your first phone call after a car accident. Calling 911 is. So when if you have an abusive spouse coming after you, your first phone call is not to your lawyer. Your first phone call is to 911 because safety is your first priority. If there's a situation where you're not quite sure what to do, then maybe I am your first phone call. Maybe I am the text message. Or if the police were called on you and the police are coming and you're not quite sure what to say, maybe I am that phone call. The police are on their way. I'm not sure what to do. So that's a situation where, I say to a client, maybe you want to give me a text and give me a heads up and, we'll have a quick phone call.
You want to call before the handcuffs come out.
Exactly.
Call before. Yeah, that's where I made my mistake. So listen, I wasn't always a Boy Scout. I'll tell you that.
I did have a client call once. The parties were living in the same house and he was living in the basement, and and the wife was upstairs, and he said, the police are here, and I don't even know why I've been in the basement the entire day. What do I do?
Yeah.
And I said, just stay in the basement. If they want you, they'll come talk to you. And, 20 minutes later, they came down, and, they told him what the allegations were, and he's like, I have no idea what she's talking about. I've been
Right.
down here all day. And eventually they just left because it was, she had called the police periodically, and at that point they didn't always believe what she was telling them.
So since COVID's gone on, there has been a lot of spike in, mental health issues. And spousal abuse, domestic violence is said to have spiked. Have you seen anything like that?
I haven't. I guess initially, as I said, when everybody was caught up together, that there were some issues, and so we really try to separate the parties or do what's called a nesting arrangement, where parties aren't in the house at the same time with the children.
Right.
And what I'm going to tag on to that is it happens, I think, with the professionals as well. I think with the attorneys. Who weren't working for some period of time. The courts were shut down. We weren't in the office. We were not considered an essential business, and our offices were shut down. And it was difficult. I mean, I had a couple of friends calling me. I was sick the first 2 weeks, so when the courts were shut down, it didn't matter to me because I was sick the first 2 weeks.
Right.
But I had friends calling me, I don't know what to do. I need to go to work, and I said, what are you going to work for? The courts are shut down. There's nothing to do. Like, sit at home and, enjoy it because it's a vacation and you're not missing any work. And we did have an attorney who also eventually got a license in psychology, and he actually did a support group for the attorneys where they were meeting a couple of times a week just to hang out and talk and, kind of get together for that. So it is important,
Bravo.
no matter what the profession is, no matter what you do, because it was and is still a difficult time. I mean, the world, you go out driving now, and we're almost back to normal driving. We're now, I see traffic all the time again.
Yes.
And it's very different than it was 9 months ago when.
Question is, where's the traffic going? Like, I work in the city, and the city is still.
It's a ghost town, right?
Yeah, man. I had to go to a meeting. And I tried to walk from the east side to the west side because the shuttle was shut down, and I was like, I'm not getting in a cab. Like I walked it, and I used to take that walk all the time to go to the Port Authority and get on a bus. I don't get on buses now.
Yeah.
But everything was closed. It was so sad.
Yeah.
The one thing that I will say, because I pay attention to stigma. And it's punishing. The one thing that COVID has done for stigma is kind of normalize and got rid of some of the misperceptions of depression and mental health challenges, because the fact is we're all going through something right now. And you know what? I want to get to what we're going to. So let's take a quick break, pay the bills, and we'll see you every once in a while.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in 2 minutes. All right, so guess what happened on my way down here?
What happened?
I got a flat.
You did?
I got a flat.
Oh,
I'm not happy about it.
No.
But you know what I'm going to do?
What are you going to do?
I'm going to go call Tommy at 631 Tire and Wheel. He's located at 666 West Hoffman Avenue in Lindenhurst. I have his number. I think I'm going to call him first, though, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Because he's a busy man.
He
Because
is
he's
a
good at
busy
what he
man.
does.
Yes.
631-412-5165. Ask for Tommy.
Yes.
Then, guess what happened?
What happened?
Not only did I get a flat tire, my rim banged out.
You bent the rim.
So, Reliable Rim Repair, 146 Bangor Street, Lindenhurst, 631-201-2003. Guess who I'm asking for?
You're asking for Tommy.
Who else would I ask for?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Remember Jen, we had her on the show?
I love her.
I love her too.
She's smart.
Yes. She is associated with Wand and Goody LLP. She studies divorce and family law. She's in Huntington.
What's the number on that again?
631-462-3434.
Jennifer Goody, right?
Jennifer Goody.
That's who I would ask for.
Me too.
So guess what?
What?
Again, it's your fault that we work late.
I am so hungry.
Giovanni's?
Yes.
Promise.
Yes, I promise.
Okay, I'm getting eggplant parm.
I'm getting pizza.
Maybe I'll get both. A little
I think we
pasta.
should.
A little pasta.
Yum.
I'll lose my elbows in the sauce. I love it.
Giovanni's,
can't wait.
1009 Little East Neck Road in West Babylon.
631-669-9507. Ask for Gio and be sure to tell him,
Theresa sent you.
not Benny, because he doesn't know me so well. And we're back. So now, Here's a few questions. I have clients I have different clients. So some of the clients can afford help or afford attorneys. Some can't. What would you say to a client that that wants to get divorced but can't afford an attorney? Like, what do they do? Like, how do they go about this? No children. Let's say there's no children. There's equity, though. There's property.
Okay, so every case, I would say, would be handled differently, and I would do a consult with everybody regardless, because I don't know what they have or don't have when they schedule a consultation. So depending on their circumstances, how I would guide them as to how to handle the divorce. So somebody that didn't have any property or any children, there is services within the court system to help them get divorced.
Okay.
Okay, somebody that had property that maybe didn't have liquid cash, that there are attorneys who would say, okay, I know that when a property is sold, because that generally happens, like a marital residence is
Yeah.
sold, they'll get paid down the road. And there are attorneys who would take a case like that, knowing that it's not complicated and that when the house is sold, that they'll get paid at that time. But again, just because there's one asset doesn't mean it isn't complicated, because one party may want to be divorced. And although we are in a state where it's very easy to get divorced because essentially we have no fault, doesn't mean the other party will make it easy, because it does,
Right.
Right.
they can still
Yeah.
drag their heels and make it complicated and expensive. So
Right.
you kind of have to gauge that, and that's why not every attorney is willing to do that.
And especially because if you're paying your attorney fees and your ex is paying their attorney fees, it makes it, this one can drag their feet because they have money, because they know the other one doesn't.
Right, and they can look to sink you.
Exactly.
And also, if the other spouse does have attorney fees, there is a concept in the law that the moneyed party pays counsel fees. So you can take it subject to making an application for counsel fees. So that's something else to be considered when you're doing a consultation with somebody.
I have seen divorce take millionaires to be not millionaires anymore. I have certainly seen that. I don't know what their bank account looks like, but I've also met people with a lot of money and they lose $50 and it's like, oh my God, you don't know what I'm going through.
So I think that goes back to your earlier question. Is somebody putting emotion into this? Is somebody
Right.
so angry that they want to crush the other person? Is somebody being practical and
Right.
saying, listen, this argument isn't worth fighting over. Is there a way to resolve it? What am I going to spend in counsel fees to
Right.
make this argument? And is it a valid argument? And what's the cost-benefit analysis of it?
See, that's why you got to take emotion out of it, because if you're going to get
Yes.
insulted by everything,
Exactly.
I'm going to tell her what I think. I'm going to tell
Exactly.
him what I think.
That's what happens. And Jen knows how to take that out of it.
Wasn't there a gentleman that you interviewed to possibly be on the show, but I think his argument was a little rough for the show? Didn't he want to tell, was it a little angry maybe?
Oh, yeah. A little angry?
A little angry,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Not a little. A lot.
Perhaps wanted to let everyone know what he's thinking.
Yeah.
That's not really what we want to be about. because
No.
That just digs the hole so much deeper.
Yes, it
I
does.
So I work for a living just like everyone else. And I have a boss, just like everyone else. And if my boss is pissed off and he pissed me off, pissing him off more,
Doesn't
Isn't-
help it.
no, it does not. I was a building engineer for 22 years, and if I pissed off my boss, that meant I'd have to paint. I hate painting.
Yeah.
I hate painting, and
Yeah.
if you paint in my industry, and
Or he'll make you clean the bathroom.
we don't clean bathrooms. That's for the porters. But, oh my God, yeah. But like arguing is just such a waste of time and money.
But sometimes you don't have a choice.
Okay.
Because there are times when maybe there's a business involved
Mm-hmm.
and, you're the non-moneyed wife and your husband has one or two businesses and you need to get your fair share and your husband's not willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times somebody will come in and say, well, what do you expect my divorce to cost? And it's very hard to predict that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I give them the range of what I've done in my career. So the cheapest divorce is somebody comes into me and says, my spouse and I have agreed to everything. These are the terms. And all I do is draft an agreement. It's a couple of $1,000s. The most expensive divorce I did was litigating an entire case and taking it through an appeal. That's a couple of $100,000.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it can be extremely expensive.
Yes.
But at some point, sometimes you have somebody who says, listen, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to mortgage my entire future, my children's future. Just get me what you can and let's be finished.
Right.
But there are times that you have to say to a client, listen, you're getting a raw deal. Maybe you need to carry this through. Let's prepare the case. If you're going to try the case and go to trial, prepare it for an appeal. Expect you're going to have to to appeal the case because maybe you're not going to get what you want to at trial.
Yeah.
If you are the moneyed party and the not moneyed party is pissed off and just looking to rake you through, drag you through the coals and put you through the ringer, how do you de-escalate that situation?
So that depends to me on the level of the moneyed party, because moneyed party just means that you make more money than the other person.
Right.
So
And
if
the
I
one
have
case
a,
I'm thinking he
so-
did.
well, no, but what I'm saying is like to me, the moneyed party could be somebody who makes $100,000 and your spouse makes 50. You know, that person who's making $50,000. I mean, how much do you really expect to take your spouse who's making $100,000?
I want to get this guy on the air
but that's
right now.
but that's like a middle class family who can't afford. They
Right.
can't
Right.
afford to each be paying $20,000 on legal fees. That's mortgaging their future. You know, if you're talking about somebody who was a housewife and wasn't earning any money, and a husband who's making $1 million,
Yes.
you know, that's different, and you might be able to buy yourself out of that, knowing that you can make up that money. But again, a lot of times there's emotion in that, and it depends a lot on the circumstance. Do they have their own business? Are they going to recoup that money? Are they a W-2 employee where they work for somebody else and they're going to have that money? They know that that income is going to be there going forward. It depends on a lot of factors.
I do know that right now there is someone listening to this show, and he's throwing things in his house.
At me.
The wall, at the apartment. He's in,
Yeah.
actually,
He's breaking shit right now.
went from like a $2.5 million home with over 2-something acres, tennis court, detached 2-car garage, detached 3-car garage with some little collectibles in there and some art going on, and now he lives in a little apartment, a little upset, and he's going, well, where were you then? Like, and I'm sure, listen, that
Yes.
happens, and the
does.
whole idea is like, how do we de-escalate situations rather than feed the fire? Is that possible? Sometimes people are just pissed off,
Right.
and they don't care what happens. That's a rough one.
It's really hard to answer,
Of course.
and I never want to say that it's the attorneys because it's really hard to say that. But I guess I would say if you're in the middle of litigation, and I guess both of you have been through this, and I would say to you, and maybe you can speak to this also, but if you're in the middle of litigation, you're really questioning, like, why am I spending this? Why is it going this path? It never hurts to speak to another attorney and say, hey, is this the way it should be going? Is there another option? If you've spoken to your attorney and you've asked them that question.
Again, this man is
Because-
throwing things at the wall.
He sure is.
I mean,
know what, this-
am I wrong? Did you guys speak to other people during the course
Yes.
of your litigation and say, hey, were there other
in
options
fairness,
to this?
I had a very clean cut and there was things that were it was very clean and easy because we both realized that we just didn't belong together, and sometimes it goes that way.
Well, not only did
I was not the money party.
Not only did you both realize, but everybody around you already knew it.
Oh yeah. So I call it my ex-life. I never say. I think it's degrading to call someone my ex-wife. I would never do that. I would never disrespect her that way. But it was my ex-life because it was a life that didn't belong to me. So my former life, however you want to say it, she sent out an email to people, and then people like, I got like phone calls like, "Hey man, I heard you're getting divorced and all."
Yeah,
So, like, yeah, we had it-
no
we had
one.
it.
No one was shocked.
Yeah,
there was a
we
whole
kinda
pool.
figured.
It was like a football pool. Like you take this number, I'm taking that number.
I was the best man in someone's wedding. And after the wedding, we're all out at this place, and everyone's dancing. The wedding's over, and I'm thinking, he was like one of my first friends that ever got married. And then this guy who was dating someone in the wedding party, his girl walks away, and he goes, "So, how long do you think this is going to last?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's my best friend, man. You can't say that." He's like, "A year?" He kept on going. I'm like, "Buddy, get away from me. I don't want to hear this." It lasted 6 months. It did. And
Yeah.
listen, unfortunately, we make my responsibility to my mistakes is mine, and I know why I made my choices. I know what my symptoms were, and I know what my problem was. For some reason, we're a society that loves to deal with symptoms rather than let's not talk about the problem. Let's just throw
Right.
money at the
Let's
symptoms.
treat the symptoms.
Medicate it,
Yes.
like by pharmacology.
Yeah.
How's that working? Whatever. I knew what I did wrong, and I apologize wholeheartedly.
You cleaned up your side of the street.
You know what? I will apologize every time it comes up because you know who else I'm apologizing to? Me.
Yeah.
I'm accountable to myself. Like I held myself responsible to a lot of things that didn't belong to me, and because it didn't belong to me, and I owned it and I adopted this, it hurt me. So one of the first people that I wanted to apologize to is myself. And nobody talks about it like that. You have the right to improve. No one has the right to stop you from bettering yourself. I'm a
Right.
firm believer in that. People will try, especially in divorce.
Yeah.
Okay, so your friend who's throwing things right now, before he started throwing things and before he's in his little shanty that he's in right now, and he was going through the divorce, did he stop and say to himself, "How do I cut my losses?
Right.
Can
How do
neither
I
confirm
stop?
nor deny.
How do I stop
have I
the bleeding?
spoken to my attorney and said, listen, this is not going the way that I want it to
I
go?
don't think he listened.
No.
Well, then,
I
and that's
honestly don't
the
think
thing
he
is like if
didn't-
he's
yeah, he
not
didn't
if
listen.
you're not listening to counsel, if you're
Right.
not taking a deep breath and saying, listen, I'm bleeding money here. How do I
Yeah.
make it stop? Because at the end of the day, if you're taking a practical approach, like I don't want to. If I have clients who have children. No matter the age, but I'm
Special
but
needs children,
whether
no
it's
less.
Yeah.
special needs children under college age especially, right? So they're in high school or younger who are going to go on to college. I don't want to take their college money. These kids need to go to college. College is a fortune. They should be thinking about the future, not spending their money on legal.
Well, that would
fees.
actually be
something-
responsible
Correct.
things on both sides.
Yeah.
Correct.
But
You know,
there are
hell hath no
also
fury.
some lawyers that don't think that way, Jen.
I can't speak to other lawyers.
I know you
can't,
can't.
and I would
That's
not even.
why-
That's why you're on the show.
Venture
Right,
to
that's
speak.
why you're on the show. Because of the fact that you think the way you think.
And I do, and I do, and as much even as far as this week, I've had at least 2 or 3 conversations with clients about where their cases are going, the money that's being spent, and
Right.
whether or not they want to continue on the path that they're going, because they have kids who are headed toward college, and how they're going to pay for that, because it's not fair to sit back
Yep.
and what they've paid in legal fees and where the case is going, because these kids do need to go to college,
and that, my
what they can
friends,
afford.
is what makes a good lawyer.
So right, or an ethical one.
Yes.
So I have sued 2 people in my life. One I can't talk about now because
It's
kinda
ongoing.
on. But I've spoken with attorneys that even like med mal cases, and one attorney told me about someone that was going through surgery, and they sewed up the patient and they left a sponge inside, so they sued for malpractice. And he goes, as crazy as it sounds, they have an attorney that's taking money with the defense and coming up with a reason why they did that and why they shouldn't have to pay. And
Right.
there is someone out there. So when I sued someone, they were like, well, listen, they're going to hire an attorney, and that attorney's not going to be like, hey, let's make this go away real quick. The attorney also
Right.
has to pay his bills.
Right.
So, all right, let's do a quick break. Everyone goes to the bathroom. We pay a few bills, and we'll be back in 2 minutes. All right, so guess what happened on my way down here?
What happened?
I got a flat.
You did?
I got a flat.
Oh,
I'm not happy about it.
No.
But you know what I'm going to do?
What are you going to do?
I'm going to go call Tommy at 631 Tire and Wheel. He's located at 666 West Hoffman Avenue in Lindenhurst. I have his number. I think I'm going to call him first, though, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Because he's a busy man.
He
'Cause
is
he's
a
good at
busy
what he
man.
does.
Yes.
631-412-5165. Ask for Tommy.
Yes.
Then, guess what happened?
What happened?
Not only did I get a flat tire, my rim banged out.
You bent the rim.
So, Reliable Rim Repair, 146 Banger Street, Lindenhurst, 631-201-2003. Guess who I'm asking for?
You're asking for Tommy.
Who else would I ask
Of
for?
course.
Absolutely.
Remember Jen, we had her on the show?
I love her.
I love her too.
She's smart.
Yes. She is associated with Wand and Goody LLP. She studies divorce and family law. She's in Huntington.
What's the number on that again?
631-462-3434.
Jennifer Goody, right?
Jennifer Goody.
That's who I would ask for.
Me too.
So guess what?
What?
Again, it's your fault that we work late.
I am so hungry.
Giovanni's?
Yes.
Promise.
Yes, I promise.
Okay, I'm getting eggplant parm.
I'm getting pizza.
Maybe I'll get both. A little
think we
pasta.
should.
A little pasta.
Yum.
I'll lose my elbows in the sauce. I
Ah,
love it.
Giovanni's,
can't wait.
1009 Little East Neck Road in West Babylon.
631-669-9507. Ask for Gio and be sure to tell him,
Theresa sent you.
not Benny, because he doesn't know me so well. And we're back. Everyone went to the bathroom. We paid a few bills, thanked the sponsors. And by the way, if you have a question or a thought or an idea that you'd like to speak about, please, what's that email address again?
It is breakingthevow@gmail.com.
So email us. Let us know what you think. If you don't think something good, don't tell us. If you like the show, tell a friend. And in the words of David Lee Roth, if you don't like the show, tell an enemy. We're good with that.
Yeah.
So we're all about building listeners, and we're all about building a network of people, because I think that, like I said, there's two different types of people listening to this show right now. There's people that are like cursing and throwing things around because they lost their shirt and pants and shoes, maybe socks.
Right.
And then there's people that going, hey, you know, I wish I did it differently.
Yes.
I wish I didn't invest so much in my emotions, which I would think that's what people invest mostly in, right? What happens when you invest in emotion?
It costs money.
Yeah. And a hell of a lot
costs
of
money.
it.
Listen.
But I will say this: if I have an overly emotional client, and that happens a lot, sometimes it takes a while to get them there, but I often refer them to a therapist. I don't have specific referrals, but I do tell them that it's time to seek out a therapist. It's time to work with somebody to take some of that emotion out of it, especially if I think it's clouding their ability to bring the case to a conclusion.
Right.
I got flown to do a sober job in California, and I spoke with an attorney, and the attorney asked me, do you do sober companioning? I go, yeah, within reason. She said, well, this will be about 3 months. And I was like, well, she's like, well, maybe you can come out every other weekend and do all these things. And, sober companion can be expensive. And the idea that she had sounded pretty costly. I was like, can this person afford this? Because divorce, it sounds pretty expensive. And she goes, he spent $250,000 in cocaine last week. I think he can afford it. And I was like,
Fair enough.
Okay. And then I didn't follow up on that, because I was like, anyone that can afford that much money in cocaine, listen, I don't need to question my
You
12
don't need to
steps,
question
man.
that.
I do not.
No, you don't.
You know what? Because that guy is going to be, listen, there's going to be a mountain in here, it's going to be snowing, and I'm going to throw hookers in your window until you leave me alone. And I don't want to be in that. I'm not saying that that's what I want in my life. I don't want that in my life, so I walked away from that. But, it would have been, there's times where you have to say, hey, you know what? This client ain't worth it.
Right. Have you ever said that, Jen?
And
I would think.
pause.
I'm trying to think, because I don't think anything in my immediate future, in my immediate past, that I've done that. I would say in 20 years of practicing.
And throwing hookers in your window.
No, but I would think. I would think in 20 years.
Hooker in your window?
I mean, I would think in 20 years that there's been a client here or there where I've said, it's become too much. I'm sure once or twice.
Right.
And have you referred them to a
usually-
lawyer that you really don't like?
Ooh, that's a good one. Can you say that?
No, I don't think I've ever. If I've parted ways with a client, it's never ended with a referral to somebody else. That it's just been a parting of ways. But I really can't even think of a situation where I've said to somebody, "Listen, it's time for you to go somewhere else." So usually, either the case ends, or they've decided to go somewhere else because it's usually mutual or something like that.
Okay.
But I would say for the most part,
Fair
I finish the cases. We find a way to work on it. If somebody is having trouble with it, like a lot of times, a client will look to me to sort of be their therapist, and I'm not a therapist, and I make that clear. And I'm way more expensive. I'm way more expensive than a therapist,
Yes,
because a therapist
you
is
are.
covered by medical insurance, and it's a copayment.
Sometimes.
But even if it's not, a therapist is charging $150 or $200 an hour. That's not my hourly rate.
I
You need-
can tell you that you were my therapist.
But in terms of legal advice, in terms of ways to go, but people who are calling, who are having ongoing, and I understand what you're talking about, because you're talking about the ins and outs of how do you deal with a spouse.
Right.
But when somebody's calling me like 3 times a day with emails and text messages and how to respond to it,
Yeah.
like that's something that they have to at some point learn how to respond to on their own.
Yes.
And I'm not a teacher for that. That's what the therapist is for, because they have to work that through. And so there does come a point where, I have to say to somebody, listen, like you're getting to a point where your bill is outrageous because you're doing this, and the better choice is to go somewhere else. And so there are people I've done that with, and they've remained clients, but I've told them to take these issues to somebody who's the correct professional.
Right, because you're all saying, well, listen, this can get pretty costly, pal.
Yeah.
So you're welcome to keep calling me.
Exactly.
The clock goes on, buddy. As soon as that
Exactly.
phone rings.
Right.
Right.
Every 15 minutes, cha-ching. No,
Right.
and I'm not saying, and you know what? I don't want to diminish what you do because I think that's great that you say that. Listen,
And I try not to be
It's
and I try not
honest.
to be that attorney
Right.
where, if somebody really needs help, and there are times, listen, I'm not billing every time, every second, everything, but, time is money, and it's time being taken away from other clients where it's legal
Right.
issues versus these emotional issues and how to respond.
Right.
And, if a client has a spouse who has mental health issues,
Mm-hmm.
that's way above, I'm going to say
Pay
the
grade.
phrase of pay grade, but that's way above my knowledge and ability to handle it. And yes, I can do it, but that's a lot of time and effort where
Well, there's
there are
different
professionals
lanes.
out there
Yeah.
to do that. So.
there's different lanes. And
Yeah,
everyone-
there's different lanes.
So listen, listen. If you go to a carpenter and ask him about your electricity in your house, he's going to look at you that's not what makes
Yeah.
sense.
Well, he
Not
can
my
do it, but he
wheelhouse.
can't promise me that he's not going to blow my house up.
Right, there
Right.
you go.
Right.
I can't promise you that your house is not going to go on
That
fire.
is the disclaimer, said the
Right.
attorney.
Right.
So I think this is great. I have had another thing that I've noticed is sometimes a little knowledge is dangerous, and as someone that was
Sometimes Google is dangerous too.
Google's the worst. Google is the worst, and WebMD.
Yes.
All roads lead
Yeah.
to
Hold on a
like
second.
AIDS.
I'm going to disagree with you for a second. I'm
You
going to
can.
say that I'm going to say this to you because I have had people, especially even in the last couple of weeks, who will make
They
a
found you on Google?
who will make a consultation appointment and then
Right.
cancel it, and the referral source will come and say, "Oh, well, they decided to go back to the person." And I'm going to say this to you about that. A lot of times, people are thinking about leaving, and they're stymied. They don't know what to do. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
the information, and information is very important because
agree with that.
without the information,
Yes.
without the knowledge, without knowing what does separate property mean,
Yes.
what are my options with custody?
Mm-hmm.
Will my husband get 50% of the time with the custody? Is that something that's going on? Am I really, if I've been the primary parent, am I going to lose that by going
Mm-hmm.
forward? What can I do to protect myself? If you don't come in and get the information, you're always going to be nervous and worried about leaving. Come in and get the information. It's even if you find an attorney who charges a consultation fee,
Mm-hmm.
and that's very attorney dependent.
That I agree with.
Yes.
Go in and get the information.
I
so
agree
what do
with that.
we all grew up like with the 80s TV, knowledge is
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Knowledge is power, and I tell people that all the time because
Knowledge-
without the
I-
knowledge,
I-
you sit there like you don't know what to do with
Right.
yourself.
I'm a firm believer in educating yourself. The reason why I say things like this is God bless the dead, I had a mom. And
You had a mom?
once, and she said,
I thought he was hatched, but that was
Exactly.
A lot
Like, we
of
thought
people-
you were hatched.
A lot of people thought a lot of things about me, I'll be honest. So my mother read, she took a psychology course once. And because she took that, she thought she knew a lot of things. Wrong. Love her, miss her, God bless you, Mom. Hand to the sky. But sometimes people think, listen, I'm pretty sure you went to like school for this. Like you might have had to pass a test.
It was a really long time ago, but I'm pretty sure I did too.
Right, exactly.
I believe it was the last
Yeah.
century, actually.
Yeah.
So, listen, I have clients that tell me, sometimes, especially when I have to speak to a client's child, or if my client is a child or a teenager or a young adult living at a parent's house, and the mom or the dad's like, I just want you to understand that he's going to be dishonest with you. No, I never heard that before. Like, oh, really? Like, people
Really?
lie? Oh my goodness!
Oh my God.
So and this is more. I can't even begin to tell you how often I do this. I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job,
But
and she's picking on me because she knows about half of that. Like, did you get the client? No, I lost it. The mother wanted to tell me how to do my job, and I'm like, then you do it. And hang up. Like,
Right.
what do you-
Actually, you
What
asked
do
me
you
that
need
before.
for
The
it?
only time I've heard that is a client might come in and say, my so-and-so, my friend, my parent, somebody said that you should be doing something different. So I'm not sure if they're telling me that because they're challenging me or they just want me to be aware that other people in their lives are telling me questions. But it's not a client who then says, and now I'm going somewhere else. They're just sort of letting me know that other people are questioning it. But they seem very happy, so I'm not concerned.
I remember.
really bizarre.
it's bizarre.
Yeah, well, you're keeping the client.
But they're not talking to me. So I said to them, if they have a question, if your parent has a question, have them come in and talk to me. I don't have a problem talking to somebody's parent or somebody in their life who's important to them.
What
They're
I've
welcome
learned
to
when
that.
you do that is people stop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's very
You
easy
won't
to
get the
second.
challenge
It's
anymore.
very easy to second guess me when they're not talking to me and hearing it firsthand what's going on and they don't
Yes.
understand what's going
So
on.
I remember when I was going through my divorce, I was seeing a therapist, and I went to this holiday dinner that was the last holiday dinner I went to that house, I'll tell you this much. And I was beaten, broken, emotionally just wrecked. You know, I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no idea who the hell's going to want to date me now, all that stuff. And I was really alone and upset. And I started getting tattooed. I'm a heavily tattooed man.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Yeah. So you can't see because I got long sleeves on, but everything but the fat gut. But so I just had my back paneled with a tattoo, and I really enjoyed the culture. I always have, and I started doing this. It was something I was enjoying, and I'm sitting in this room with people that, whoever they were in my life at the time, they're not anymore, but whoever they were at the time, they started questioning, like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you doing that to yourself? I'm like, well, it's something I've always wanted to do, and I like it. So then I started. The question came up about my divorce, and I said, we're at like a holiday dinner. Like, I don't want to talk about that. Hey, let's talk. How about the Mets? Like anything.
Anything else?
People love to talk.
Yeah.
So, and they want you to know how much you know. So I said, the person that said this to me is a therapist, and I said, I have a therapist. Thank you. I'm going to let them do their job. And this person goes, I'm just mirroring the person that I think you need me to be. I go, I need you to shut up, man. Like, what the fuck? Like, I sat there, and then all of a sudden, it broke and went wild. I have learned from that, ever since then, like, I learned one really valuable lesson. Always spend time with people that empower you.
Yes.
Not people that question you. So when I was going through my divorce, my attorney was an older gentleman who was very kind to me. He was very gentle about all the information. He told, this is what you're going to go through. This is what's going to happen. And when I said, well, I want to do this, he goes, no, you don't. He goes, we're not making this ugly. We're going to get through this together, and then it's over. And I remember that I was like, that's the kind of people that I want to spend time with. Not just in divorce, in business, friendships, any sort of relationship. I want to spend time with people that are going to empower me to be better, not empower an argument. Mm-hmm. And is that something that you would try to do with your client?
So I think when I do a consultation, when any attorney does a consultation, you find out who they are. Mm-hmm. And so clients tend to find the attorneys that they're looking for. So if they're looking for somebody to rip the heads off of their spouse, that they're going to find that in the consultation. If they're looking for somebody to make it easy, that's what they're going to find. When I do a consultation, I try to really listen to what the client is looking for. Some are looking to heavily litigate, and some are not. So, when I try to describe myself to clients as sort of a chameleon, that I'm what they need at the time that they need it.
I am the room. Yep.
So if they need initially for somebody to be like a real tiger and to go in there and get it done and then back off down the road because we need to settle the case, that's what's going to happen. If we go in, very lightly because we're really just trying to settle the case and not stir the pot, that's what it is from the beginning. And so from the outset, I keep the client involved in the decision making. I lay out the options. They are the decision maker. I just lay out their options because I cannot choose for them which path to take.
Right.
It's their life.
Right.
I can only tell them what their options are.
My best friend and I, we take walks up in our neighborhood, and we take these long walks, and we talk about our goals, and we talk about how we're going to achieve them rather than, it sucks, rather than do that. And he works at a serious job, and as do I. And then he says, I am the room. I am who that room needs me to be. I'm paid for that. He goes, this is what I'm supposed to do. When I'm home, I'm allowed to have my opinion. But right there, I am what that room needs me to be. So that being said, when we come back, we're going to go into our constructive conclusion and go to a quick little commercial break, get a little coffee, and I'll see you guys in 2 minutes. Sounds fair?
Sounds fair.
Sounds fair.
All right. All right, so guess what happened on my way down here?
What happened?
I got a flat.
You did?
I got a flat.
Oh.
I'm not happy about it.
No.
But you know what I'm going to do?
What are you going to do?
I'm going to go call Tommy at 631 Tire and Wheel. He's located at 666 West Hoffman Avenue in Lindenhurst. I have his number. I think I'm going to call him first, though, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Because he's a busy man.
He
Because
is
he's
a
good at
busy
what he
man.
does.
Yes.
631-412-5165. Ask for Tommy.
Yes.
Then, guess what happened?
What happened?
Not only did I get a flat tire, my rim banged out.
You bent the rim.
So, reliable rim repair, 146 Bangor Street, Lindenhurst, 631-201-2003. Guess who I'm asking for?
You're asking for Tommy.
Who else would I ask for?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Remember Jen, we had her on the show?
I love her.
I love her too.
She's smart.
Yes, she is associated with Wand and Goody LLP. She studies divorce and family law. She's in Huntington.
What's the number on that again?
631-462-3434.
Jennifer Goody, right?
Jennifer Goody.
That's who I would ask for.
Me too.
So guess what?
What?
Again, it's your fault that we work late.
I am so hungry.
Giovanni's?
Yes.
Promise.
Yes, I promise.
Okay, I'm getting eggplant parm.
I'm getting pizza.
Maybe I'll get both. A little
I think we
pasta.
should.
A little pasta.
Yum.
I'll lose my elbows in the sauce. I
Ah,
love it.
Giovanni's,
I can't wait.
1009 Little East Neck Road in West Babylon.
631-669-9507. Ask for Gio and be sure to tell him,
Theresa sent you.
not Benny, because he doesn't know me so well. All right, so we're back. Now, guys, listen, this is not a shameless plug. This is not anything like this. I ate something called a sugar pie.
Sugar.
Sugar.
S-H-U-G-A.
Yeah, you got to say it right.
Sugar
Well, it's
pie.
Long Island.
People make fun of my accent
Absolutely.
wherever I go. The one time I pronounce an R, they're like, hey, it's wrong. So anyway.
I had to learn how to say my name. I'm from Long Island. I had to add that R to Jennifer.
Ah,
Oh
okay.
my God!
It's not
so
easy.
I had a client, and we were in California, and I had to stay with the client for like 7 days almost. And this guy was such a beautiful human being. I wasn't sure how we were going to connect because he lives a very different lifestyle than me. And he's like, "So you're the guy that's taking care of me for the week?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." So there's a bunch of things that went on. First off, there's Reiki.
Yes.
I never knew did you know what Reiki is?
Yes.
I didn't know what Reiki is.
Really?
I didn't, and so I'm taking notes down, and I'm typing up something that I had to do, and I'm writing up a whole bunch of stuff, and then he's in this big room, and I see this woman, like, waving her hands over him, and then throwing things over his shoulder. I'm like, that's some new shit for me.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm into wellness, and I love it, but never saw that before. So then he's going, and then I go, that massage, that was good for you. He says, yeah. I go, I don't know, I didn't see a touch, and I sort of waving into. He goes, that's Reiki. I go, that's what that is. All right.
Yeah.
So we go to take a walk, and we're walking around the neighborhood, and it's right on the beach. It's literally a beautiful place. It really was. And we're walking around, and we pass by this massage parlor, and he looks. I go, you're not going in there. He's like, well, it says that in the contract that I get massages. I'm like, you had it. He goes, you don't think that one's in? I go, no.
No.
So everywhere we go into, people are like, hey, New York, oh, and making fun
Right.
of me.
Everybody makes fun of our accent.
100%.
Everyone.
So the client and I got very close, and I thought it was such a loving, amazing experience. We got very close, and I was very protective of him, and I don't think he experienced that before. And also, like, I look how I look, I sound how I sound, and I guess whatever, he appreciated it. So last night that we're together, we go into this place, and it's like a little cheeseburger joint, and I order for him. And the guy behind the counter was very big. Knives, all that shit behind the counter. He goes, "Ew, Brooklyn, ew," and I go, "Oh yeah, my accent, yeah." So I started answering. He's like, "Hey, where you from? Where you from? New York, hey." And then the guy goes, "Yeah, that's right. He's from New York City. Where are you from? He's from the biggest." I'm like, "Buddy, I came outside. I'm like, he'll beat me up. Like, I'm here to help, man. Not get beat up." Texas. You remember I had to fly this guy to Texas. And the guy's looking at me funny the whole time. And I get off the plane and I start to ask where, which plane, because I had to fly there and then fly home. So my job was to escort the client to the rehab. First off, I'm not bringing up the rehab with the name and I'm not even saying where in Texas because I don't want to get sued. They had this guy come pick him up. This kid looked beat up. I'm like, you want me to let him go with him? I should have had them sign something. I swear to God. So this guy goes, he goes, get in the car with him? I go,
I guess.
Yeah.
I got to get on a plane, man. I'm hearing back.
Yeah.
So I flew to Texas, went over to another terminal, and flew back. And now I don't know where I am. And to me, it's intimidating. I don't like not knowing where I am. I am not shy about asking directions. They say men don't like to ask for directions. I'll ask. I'll ask all day long rather than be lost. Even if I move 5 feet, where do I go now? 100%. And every time they're like, yeah, you from here, are you? Do I sound like I'm from here, man? No, so you had to learn how to,
I went to school in the Midwest for college, and if you get made fun enough, eventually you learn to put R's where they belong and take them off where they don't. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
Well, where don't they belong?
They don't belong at the end of names like Maria.
Maria. Yeah. Holy shit, I
Yeah.
never noticed that.
Right.
Yeah.
People,
And they do belong at the end of my name.
Right.
So, okay, so were you ever told, like, certain things to say? Like, hey, can you say, like, Snickerball?
Yeah, oh, coffee.
Well,
coffee.
Pop was a big one.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Pop?
They say pop in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Tennis
They
shoes.
don't
That was a
say
big thing.
soda.
I never in 4 years said pop, but I did have people saying soda by the end of 4 years.
Yeah.
That's my big claim to fame because I
I
really
love
don't
that.
understand pop. I
No, me
really just
neither.
don't get that.
I don't get it either.
I did very much enjoy the Midwest, except for making fun of my accent, and
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't notice that I would say things differently. But there was a linguistics professor doing some kind of study and asked me to read a paragraph while I was there, and then when I came back from break, so that they could use this for something in their class. And so, but originally it was just to say it both Midwest and New York. So I went there and I said it, I guess, Midwest. And then he said, okay, now say it like you're from New York. And I said, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
And I said, well, I'm going home for break, so just give it to me and I'll say the paragraph on the plane. And, you know, after a week home, of course, I'm going to sound like I'm from New York. So I did this on the plane. And a month later, I checked in with the professor. I said, was there a difference? Like, oh, yes, absolutely. There was a difference. A
100%.
month in, a week in New York, and you sound like you're from New York again.
You know, I listen. Decades ago, I was in rehabs with people from all over the country, and they're like, you hear different accents. I never realized that I talk different. Everyone else has an accent.
Right.
not
Right,
me.
not me.
So I was contracted to do a talk in a corporate setting.
That's
Talking-
so not you. That is so not you.
Well, it is because
it's not.
It is because I do wellness and mental health programs in corporate America. So apparently it might be a little, but they wanted me to tell my story. I go, "Are you sure?" They go, "Yeah, 100%." I go, "Listen, I make people cry. I'm letting you know, 100%." They're like, "Well, how bad could you make people?" I go, "I've done things that took me 2.5 hours to leave the room." I'm like, "I'm letting you know, 100%." They go, "No, I told you about this." So no,
Yeah.
they're like, "No." And then I said, "Listen, let's come up with something." They called the EAP, HR, everyone. And they're like, "Well, do you mean anything special?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want my own dressing room. I want red grapes.
Red grapes.
Red grapes.
Someone has
Seedless.
to feed them to you.
Seedless, white robe, white
robe.
slippers. Otherwise, I can't go on." This lady, sorry.
And got them for you, right?
No, she's like writing it down. My friends are in the meeting, and they're like, "He's kidding, you know."
Right.
He's never done this. So,
Yeah.
so I go in, and I give. So people go up, and this is corporate America, and these people go up, and the reason why I got into wellness is because I wanted to feel better, and then I come up, I'm like, yeah. So I got into wellness because I wanted to live. You know what I mean? It's a little different. And then I tell my story, and you see these people, and then you hear people go, because some of the story is violent, you know.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, and then the woman comes up to me. She's like, "Are you going to stay to answer questions?" I go, "Listen to me. I'm going to let you know 100% right now. Nobody's asking me anything." She goes, "Oh no, that was the most impactful, powerful thing I've ever heard. People are going to." I go, "Listen, I've done this before. Two things are going to happen. One thing, they're all going to run out of this room really quickly. They're either going to go for a priest at a bar. Either way, they're
Yeah.
running right out." She's like, "Oh no." Room empties, wham! She goes, "You weren't kidding." I'm like, "I've done this before. I've done this before." You know, when you talk, listen, there's no reason to be dishonest about what's going on in this world. I believe in honesty, and I believe, so the whole thing about my presentation is I talk about the emotional aspect of it. When you talk about emotions, people like run. I talk about why I did what I did, not what I did. You know, you get a
Right.
lot of these people, you know, if you just talk about the glitz and the gleam and all the actions that you take, people get attracted to that.
Right.
They don't pay attention to the fact that there's a person behind that, or the pain that was behind that. So we're coming towards the end, and we want to talk about the constructive conclusion. I learned that everything I did, there was a reason behind it. Everything I did was just to honor a need, a thought, a want, or an idea. And even now, I work to improve on a daily basis. I will never do another presentation like that in corporate America again. Probably because of the order of protection that came out after. I'm just kidding. But literally, they were like this. They were like, and by the way, you know what the only question they asked?
What?
Because they sent down a survey monkey. Like, where the hell is that guy from? He talks funny. That was it. Seriously. So,
Yeah.
So what would you say? John, what was your constructive conclusion? How do you feel about the show, and what do you think? What was your constructive conclusion about how you want to end the show? What do you want people to know and think about?
I think people need to consider what their goal is in getting divorced, what they want to accomplish through the divorce, where they see themselves and their family in 5 years, whether they want to maintain or need to maintain a relationship with their ex down the road. And sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I mean, if there are no kids involved, if there were never kids, then you really don't. It doesn't mean you shouldn't, but you don't have to. If there are kids, no matter what the age, then you really should think about what tactics you're taking or going to take through the divorce, and how that's going to impact your children regardless of the age. Because I've done divorces of people who have little kids and people who have children in their 40s or 50s, and it affects children of all ages because you still have those family dinners, you still have those anniversaries, you still have birthday parties, you have grandchildren together, and the children still want family gatherings. And if you can't be in the same room together, I mean, I'm a child of divorce. My parents didn't start doing birthday parties with us until I asked for it and I was in my 20s.
See, that's heartwarming to me. Like when families can put that stuff to the side and just say, "Hey, you know what? We didn't work out, but we still have lives."
Yeah, and there's no time limit on that, though.
Right.
Like you said, it was in your 20s.
Well, it's not that they never did anything, but even like the regular birthday. So like I had a bat mitzvah. My parents did that together. But like the average birthday party where it wasn't a special event and it was just a dinner, it wasn't until I started saying, hey, why don't we do this, just me and my brother and our parents.
Right.
It wasn't until I said, let's do it. So why do I have to be the one as the child to do that? Why wasn't that something that they had decided to do? So think about that with your children and your grandchildren, and that they want to do that together. It doesn't mean you have to do it every year, but would they want to do that? So consider that going forward.
So this is what I'm going to ask from you, because we need this show to work, not just because we want a show that works, but we need people like you.
Everybody needs Jen.
Well, that's the bottom line, right? So we need people like you. Hey, look, we talked about divorce, but guess what? We laughed. We had a good time.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming into the show.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you for having me.
Remember, guys,
appreciate
if you
it.
have a question, just email us at breakingthevow@gmail.com. And your question might be on the air. Please say nice things. Don't say anything bad.
Don't say anything bad.
And if you like the show, tell a friend. And if you don't like it,
Be quiet.
Yeah, be quiet. Or tell an enemy. Either way. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you
Peace
both.
out.